We got 7 different stories from 7 different media news outlets, guys. It's time for another episode of Regan's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of Regan's Newsround, where I cover several different stories from several different media outlets. And we start with The Guardian with the headline here of a UK minister saying, Brexit checks prices you pay for being a sovereign state again. That headline feels really, really rude. Is that really what the minister actually said? I don't think that's what the actual minister said. But Andrea Linton says business experiencing some friction should adapt to changes in trade rules. Guys, we did not vote for this. How many times do we need to say this? We did not vote to leave the EU single market. It was not on the ballot. It was not on the paper. We were told that we would not be leaving the single market. I have to remind people of this because we still have this perception that people have is that this is what we voted for. No, we did not vote for this. Show me on the ballot where it says next to leave the EU, where it says we leave the single market and customs union. Show me where it says that on there, because it didn't. It's so infuriating and it's so insulting that they're trying to claim that this is a good thing for us. No, it's not a good thing, because we have to pay more for everything. We all have to pay more for this. Everybody does. And the thing is as well, and I've talked about this in other videos as well, is that from the European side, businesses that want to do deals with the UK, with businesses that want to work and export to the United Kingdom are going to be put off by this. Why would they want to go through this now? You know, you make it sound like it's a good thing. This whole taking back control thing. Like, is it worth the price that we are all going to suffer as a result of it? You know, because that's where we're going. We're going down this. No, it's not worth it. It's not worth the damage that this is causing. And people keep going back to COVID. It's been years now. You know, we got to stop using the pandemic as an excuse now. We're way past COVID now. We're way past it. And as is the rest of the world. Yes, there are still people suffering from COVID, and I've covered it before. But that is not the reason why inflation is sky high while the economy is in the predicament that it is in. It's just you can't ignore the faults of Brexit. You know, you can keep trying to, but you just can't ignore them, guys. You have to keep rinsing and repeating myself about this. Myself and many other YouTubers who know what's going on. But our politicians, the mainstream ones, don't seem to want to acknowledge the faults. So British businesses experiencing some friction when trading with the European Union after Brussels is the price you pay for being a sovereign state again, a government minister has said. On the 4th anniversary of Britain's officially leaving the European Union, the Health Minister and Brexiteer Andrea Leadsom said UK firms should adapt to the change in trade rules after new checks were brought in on food, drink and some agricultural products, suggesting they should not buy goods from Europe. Why not? Why not? They're next door to us. So what? Where are they going to buy their goods then? It's just such a tongue-in-cheek thing, saying, maybe you should trade somewhere else then. And it's just it's just so it comes across really childish as what it is as well. Like, people want to do business with them. When asked what the successes of Brexit were, Leadsom told LBC News, I'm hugely delighted at Brexit. We have our sovereignty back. We're in control of our money, laws and borders. The NHS has considerably more than £350 million a week, and we signed up to 70 trade deals. Right, so feck's sake. Okay, so there's a lot to debunk in this. She's going to kill me with this blooming statement here. Okay, so we have our sovereignty back. What is sovereignty? Please explain in the comment section. Or if you're watching this on Premiere, explain the means of sovereignty. What does sovereignty mean? Explain how we've got that back. Okay, that's the second thing. The next thing is saying we're in control of our money. We were in control of our money before we left the EU. We were already in control of it. In fact, did you know we actually had more money to spend when we were part of the European Union? Did you guys know that? So saying we're in control of our money, well, okay, but we have even less money that we control. So, okay. Laws and borders, well, how well's laws and borders going? I mean, our crime is through the roof at the moment, so that's not going well. How's the Stop the Boats challenge going? Oh, that's right, that's out of control. We don't have any legal routes for migrants to come to the UK. There's no legal routes unless you're Hong Kong or Ukrainian. So where's the so for them? Definitely got a grip on that. I mean, you just look at the numbers that have come in last year, guys. Really, really got control of that, haven't we? The NHS has considerably more than £315 million a week. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. The NHS is not getting nowhere near the funding that it needs, and to joke about something that they're getting more than £315 million a week. Surely, if that was the case, we would be seeing it. We would be seeing it in our NHS, and we don't see it. So that for me is another lie. And this last one here, we've signed up to 70 trade deals. Well, there's a couple of things. So first of all, the trade deals that most of them are just renewed deals that we've already had with some nations where there's little feasibility. Also, we've lost trade deal with Canada. We have trouble with trade deal with Canada as well. So that's a fault of Brexit. The trade deals that we've had with Australia and New Zealand, just to point this out, guys, we gave up a lot of leeway just to get those trade deals. We could have had better deals with them if we were part of the EU, by the way. So that's another thing as well. Also, we were told that we were going to have a trade deal with the United States of America. That still hasn't happened. It's 2024. Now, you're gonna blame America for that? We were told we were going to have a fantastic trade deal with America because we don't need a trade deal with the EU, apparently. A lot of those trade deals, like I've said, they've just been auto-renewed, some of them. So it's not like these trade deals, it's not like all the trade deals were going to stop, as soon as they ran out. No, there was always going to be negotiations and decisions about whether both sides of an agreement, whether want to continue to renew it. And on most of those occasions, they've been renewed. Some have not gone well, like I said, in Canada, and others have gone really bad for us, like, New Zealand and Australia. But after hearing the difficulties of British florists face when trying to import flowers from the Netherlands because of additional checks, Lewison told Sky News, leaving the single market was always going to have implications. I'm just saying that businesses need to adapt to meet the changing environment. But there was such a lack of communication about all this. Such a lack of communication. They were not telling businesses enough. They were not being clear and honest enough about this. It's all well and good as these businesses, especially small and medium businesses, are going to really struggle because of this. They're going to seriously struggle because of this. It's so insulting to them. It really, really is. I can certainly remember as business secretary myself back in 2019, every day meeting with businesses roundtables to help them prepare for us actually leaving the European Union and to understand the additional checks that would be required. Really? Really? I don't see many businesses standing up and saying, yeah, she was right, she's listened to all our problems. I haven't heard businesses saying that. So businesses are used to the cost of doing business. I understand that today is a big news story because it's something that's finally come home to roost. But the fact of the matter is that businesses have huge opportunities in other parts of the world which are a direct benefit of us leaving the European Union. No, again, that's nonsense. There is nothing wrong with us being a part of the European Union and looking at opportunities outside the European Union. We had opportunities just as much outside the European Union as we do within it. This is a complete BS from her. There are businesses inside the United Kingdom who have done businesses with other countries outside the European Union and are still having businesses with them, and they've had no change whatsoever to them. So to say, so I just this here just reeks of fu really to all these businesses who have such an easy time of trade that they've had with the EU is now gonna go up in smoke. Just so insulting. It really, really is, guys. Speaking about trade relations, the minister told Radio Times, what that does mean is that there's some friction in trade. However, so she agrees there is friction in trade. However, we also have a huge trading arrangement with other countries around the world. Again, like, keep going back to these things. Like, New Zealand, like, guys, I also need to remind you for those who don't understand geography. So, just so you guys understand, yeah, just because not a lot of people who are defending Brexit understand geography. So, I kind of have to paint a picture for you because it's really, really important. So, New Zealand and Australia are all the way on the other side of the planet in part of Asia and Oceania. That's like all the way on around the other side. We're talking about like, like the kind of long term flights, 16, 18-hour flights that you can take, you can go all that way on the side of the world. Yeah, that kind of trade deal. So if we are to avoid trade deals with them and not with Europe, that means they've got to bring those goods all the way from the other side of the world to here, whether that's by plane, by train, or by cargo ship. Guess what? That emits emissions, most of them, don't they, for climate as well. So that's another thing. Plus, it also takes time. That's a lot of time. And guess what? That's the same. And guess what? America, just so you guys know, is like on the other side of the other side of a big ocean, yeah, right next to us, an island. Just to give you, yeah, Brexiteers a geography perspective as well. So they have to get that again, that big pile of ocean between us. So they have to fly over, or the cargo ships have to come across the ocean, and that emits emissions as well. Just so you know, they can't use a train to get it over to us because there's a big giant pool right in between us. Also, just to kind of add the caveat, the difference between them and like with us in the EU, just to point this kind of out there, like they are literally next door to us. Did you know that, obviously, because you guys obviously are aware about immigration, obviously, France, who's in the EU, is literally right next door to us. And so is Germany right next to France. And if you look down, there's also Spain and Italy and all these great countries. And yes, are they having the best of times? No, some of them are not having the best of times either. But guess what? They're very close to us. They are our neighbours because they are literally close to us. Just like Ireland is across the border on the other side, guys. On the other side of the water. Did you know that as well? Yeah. So why would you not want to trade with those who are right next to you? That's just a little bit of a geography lesson for those who obviously don't know where certain countries are around the world. You're welcome. On the eve of the new arrangements coming into force, the Commons Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee, who wrote to the Environment Secretary Steve Barclay, expressing concerns over the new post-Brexit checks. The committee chair, which remained concerned about the location of the physical checks that will be undertaken for commercial loads, adding it poses potentially serious biosecurity risk to the UK. Goods from Britain have faced similar controls from the EU since it left the bloc's single market at the start of 2021, but the UK has repeatedly pulled off checks in the other direction. Ministers have sought to allay concerns of the new post-Brexit checks on food and drink imports coming into force. The long-delayed rules are part of the UK's government's introduction of a series of checks this year. Fears have been expressed about disruption to supply chains, with MPs also warning about the new border regimes that could present serious biosecurity risks to the UK. The Home Secretary, James Cleverly, has played down the concerns, saying that there would be no interruption to food on supermarket shelves as a result of the new rules. On the anniversary of Britain's official departure, a leading French MEP said nothing has been a success since. Yeah, still waiting for those benefits to come through. Valentine Haler, president of the Renew Europe group in the European Parliament, wrote, all the polls show the drama created by Brexit, purchasing power, social security, global influence, border protection, absolutely nothing has been a success. The populists lied to the British. It has been indeed. But obviously, we're not supposed to criticise the big fat white elephant in the room, guys. We're not allowed to criticise the big fat white elephant in the room. But I hope those of you enjoyed that little geography lesson, because obviously not everybody knows about the geography of where countries are in the world. But just on the final point here, she's talking out of her behind here. She hasn't really given the clearest of definitions of the great benefits, of course. And I'll probably put maybe even I might even put a poll up asking what does sovereignty mean, or maybe something like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you guys can define the word sovereignty and explain to me how it benefits my life or how it enriches my life. The word sovereignty. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. Shall we move on? Yeah, let's move on, guys. This one is from Sky News. So the headline is how experts predict the XL bully ban will change things in 2024. One expert tells Sky News that the XL bully ban is likely to introduce a gun ban to stop shooting deaths, but only outlaw one make or model of a gun. So these dogs, obviously, when I did a video last talking about how XL bullies, I said on the premise that I believe that it's not the dogs it is always the owners that train them. Now, obviously, I had people in the comments who said that some of them have been attacked or whatever by XL bully ban by these bully dogs, and I mean this sincerely. I deeply sympathise with anyone with any attacks from dogs, but I don't agree with this premise that one species of dog should be outright banned. I generally believe that. You guys may disagree with me in the chats, and you may throw statistics at me, but I generally don't think it's right that an entire breed of dog should be banned outright. I generally believe that it is always the owners, those who raise them from when they're born to the adults that they become. That for me is where the issue lies. It's not for me in the issue of the dog, because dogs can be trained to do literally anything these days, and if they're raised by a bad owner, they become a bad dog, and that's how I generally believe it. But obviously, like I've said, that some people obviously don't believe that. So we still have just here in this is saying a gun. It says here that the bully ban is likely to introduce a gun ban to stop shooting deaths. I do believe that that does seem a bit extreme, in my opinion. Perhaps maybe just the anaesthetic and the needle in is probably the most humane way to put a dog to sleep. I don't think taking them out back and shooting them is probably one of the most the kindest of ways of putting down a dog. But I've never experienced that, or know personally people who have experienced it. So on that, it's not really my judgment to make. But we have very very strict gun laws here in the UK. People are having them. It's very hard for people to get. I'd say it's difficult for people to get their hands on guns, but maybe some of you will disagree in the comment section down below. So banning XL bully dogs will not reduce the number of dog attacks, experts have told Sky News, and it could make things worse. So, yeah, experts are saying this. The first rules of the phased ban of XL bullies, which were brought in on the 31st of December, which requires owners to get an exemption by midday today if they did not want their dog basically put to sleep. From tomorrow, police can seize the dogs if they are not registered or do not comply with strict restrictions, and owners could face a criminal record and an unlimited fine. Is that really? That feels harsh. That does feel harsh. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced the restrictions last year after branding the breed a danger to communities following a string of attacks. Some experts say if the government's aim is to keep people safe, banning a single breed of dog with a law that has immediate loopholes is not the way to go about it. Exactly. That is not the way to go about it. Yeah, muzzle Rishi, don't bully our breed. Couldn't agree more. Professor Carl Westgarth, chair of the Inhuman Animal Interaction at the University of Liverpool, said that some campaigners have likened the ruling to not allowing guns to prevent shooting deaths, but this is like banning only one make and model of a gun. Yeah, exactly. Asked if the ban will work, Dr. John Tolsey's simple answer was simple: no. Excuse me. He is a vet and epidemiologist also at the University of Liverpool who researches dogs-related injuries and deaths. In the last 20 years, the number of adults needing hospital treatment after a dog bite has tripled, these researchers found. The increase in dog-related injuries predates the appearance of XL bullies to the UK. The crossbreeds arrived in the UK in about 2014. If I generally thought the increase over the last 20 years was all due to one dog breed, I would have happily said, yeah, we shouldn't be allowing people to have this breed, he said. But I don't believe that this is the case. This has set the conversation backwards. There is a link between XL bullies and organised crime, he said. So people are looking for the fighting dog size and power to simply get another type of big dog or breed with one of those attributes. He believes that without addressing the causes behind the animals biting, the ban could potentially mean more attacks in the future. He said, without a doubt, I think it sets the conversation to do with dangerous dogs and dog bites backwards a number of years. There should be more checks in place for those buying dogs, he added. Yes, 100%. I know that I could easily go online now and by the end of the day I've got a dog. It's that easy. If I suddenly decide to get a Mastiff dog, that is not suited to my lifestyle where I live. There's nothing stopping me from occurring. This here, right here, is bang on the money with the issues here. This is where you can protect the dogs and stop them being in the hands of bad owners right here. There needs to be more to stop this. Now, yes, we know we have an issue with a lot of people breeding dogs and then just putting them on Facebook and whatnot, but there needs to be more of a regulatory system here. Now, all dogs need to this. It's too easy, and yeah, this here speaks to my mind here. It's too easy to get hands on any dog, pretty much. Hundreds of XL bullies will be destroyed when the ban comes in, but thousands will not. Owners can apply for exemptions or keep their pets, and the government told Sky News that the majority of the 4,000 applications have been approved. So 4,000 of them have been approved to remain in the hands of these owners. Now, there's a good chance that some of these owners, like I've said, are probably good owners, and these dogs are pretty much very well looked after and cared for. But like I said, there are some bad dogs. But like I said, I don't believe that they are all bad dogs, and I always think it's down to the owners. The new law means there are restrictions on exempt XL bullies, including having to be muzzled or on a lead in public. Given most dogs' attacks and deaths happen at home or when the dogs escape, the measures won't reduce bites in the places where they happen often, Professor Westgard said, adding that the exemption of the scheme does not include an assessment of the dog's temperament or the owner's sustainability to own a banned breed, as the case is with other banned breeds. Assessments on the owner needs to be checked, like we've said. There are no difficulties in defining what an XL bully is and have no specific DNA markers and are not recognised as a breed in the UK. See all these things, guys. You're seeing all these things that are coming up now as a result of this ban. This makes it very difficult for authorities or even owners to clearly identify and enforce a ban and not accidentally include dogs that are not actually XL bullies or miss dogs that are in fact Professor Westgard has said. Rosie Bogold, the clinical animal behaviourist, highlighted now height is used as a defiant feature. The difference in 1 inch will effectively determine whether a bull breed dog type is deemed dangerous or not, she said. Are high dog attack rates the new normal? In 2022, 10 people died in dog attacks. Before that, the average was 3.3 a year. In 2023, at least 8 people have died. Statistically speaking, it is too early to say if these numbers will be the new normal for fatal dog attacks, Dr. Tulloch has said. But from a sort of normal perspective, it looks as though it is going up. They all agree that they need to bring the rate down, bringing the rate down is not as simple as banning one breed. So, if not a ban, what? More barriers to making it more difficult, more paperwork, more rest assurances, background checks on owners. Like, make it difficult for people. Like, I know people not going to like this, but make it difficult for people to buy a dog. Make it difficult. And I don't mean in terms of value. I mean paperwork, who you are, your career, like criminal record, these kinds of things. A background check on the owner specifically who are buying these dogs. There needs to be some kind of enshrinement in law so that that can be happened. And those who are caught without, who get these dogs online or on black markets and whatnot, there needs to be some kind of crackdown on this, I think. Professor Westgard said that she would like to see the criteria set to ensure that only dogs of good temperament and physical health are bred from, but this said to require aesthetic resources and policing and local authorities to enforce. I don't think this is something that the police and local authorities should be enforced. I do think that there can be a third party an organisation out there that could do this. Like I said, I don't think I want it to be a private one, but I do think there can be a separate some kind of separate enforcement or something on this. I do think that there's something that Labour could look into. Agencies have also had the abilities and expectations to share data on problematic dogs and their near-miss incidents, she said. There's responsibility for dog-related issues only kicking after someone has been bitten, and dog trainers and behaviourists should be regulated. Social changes is also needed. She added, people need to believe that all dogs are capable of biting, and stop trust that my dog would never hurt anyone. Yeah, when people have a dog, their perception is obviously that their dog is always innocent and it would never harm anyone. That's a David. But we all feel that way about our dog. Whoever's got one. I don't have a dog, but for those who are dog owners, that's your belief, isn't it? Mrs. Belsky said there should be reform to stop dogs being sold on Facebook and Gumtree without some sort of assessment, and enforced education similar to speed awareness for dog owners who have been reported for antisocial behaviour. Yeah, this is where you will need to get social media companies involved of some sort to try and stop that, as many of the dogs involved in fatal attacks have previously been reported to authorities. Dogs licenses have been touted as a fix, but then again, there is the problem of expecting personal and cash-strapped agencies to enforce it. Dr. Tully pointed out owners are also unlikely to find it socially acceptable and to be asked to cough up hundreds of pounds a year, he added. He pointed to Ireland where, despite a dog's licensing scheme, a recent report showing dog bites needed hospital treatments and doubled in the last 10 years. Ultimately, a raft of different measures is necessary, the experts have said. And a spokesperson for the government of Department DEFRA has said it is taking quick and decisive action to protect the public by banning XL bully types, and their measures were being taken to ensure that the full extensive range of existing powers to take dog controls issues are effectively applied across all dog breeds. The department is working with responsible dog ownership task force set up between police, local authority groups and animal welfare experts, and said it's considering the role of education and training to reduce the risk of dog attacks and how we can address all aspects of irresponsible dog ownership. I do like that. I do like the way this has come across from the spokesperson, but I don't think this is the answer that an outright ban of one breed is going to solve the issue. Like I said, there's some great faults there. And I'm curious to hear what you guys have thoughts about the dog ban and how we can approach this, because I do think there needs to be some serious discussions about how dogs are get gotten by owners, and the assessment. It's more for me about the owner. If there are dogs that have temperament problems and whatnot, then there needs to be, obviously they need to be with a specialist owner and not just basically putting into the hands of any owner out there. Lots and lots of issues with it. So it probably won't be the last time I talk about dog breeds here on the channel, if I'm honest, guys. And we've got five more articles to talk about, guys, and I'm already nearly halfway through this. Guys, if you can, hit the like button and share this across social media, because it really does help support the channel, and subscribe, because it really does help. This next one, guys. Labour. Bankers' bonuses. No cap under Labour, says Reeves. The Shadow Chancellor has told BBC Labour will not reinstate a bankers' bonus cap that was scrapped last year by the Conservative government. Why? Why? I saw in PMQs the SNP leader Stephen Flynn pointing this out, and when he pointed this out, I actually went out of my way to find an article on this, and I was just like, oh god. Just like, why do Labour not want to put the cap back on? Why do they want them to enrich themselves at the expense of why? This is my first thoughts. Why? It's the only thing I can think of, guys. I just don't understand the logic here. I suppose read into it, maybe you might better understand it. So the Shadow Chancellor has told BBC Labour she would not reinstate a bankers' bonus cap that was scrapped last year by the Conservative government. It comes as Rachel Reeves set out the government's plans to boost economic growth through the financial service sector. She described the sector as one of the greatest assets with which the champion would unashamedly champion. It marks a big change from the politics of the previous leadership in past criticism of the bonus cap removal. But why? Why are we keeping it? You haven't explained why. A maximum bonus equivalent to 200% of bankers' regular pay was introduced across the European Union to deter excessive risk-taking, mainly blamed for the financial crisis. Exactly. The decision to abandon the bonus cap was made by the short-lived Liz Truss government before turmoil on the financial market forced her Chancellor, Mr Kwarteng, to step down following the Prime Minister herself. Ms Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, former Bank of England official, told the BBC that she had no plan to reinstate the bonus cap, despite criticism from key Labour figures and others, including the umbrella body for the UK's trade unions. The cap on bankers' bonus were brought in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, and it was the right thing to do to rebuild public finances, she said. But that has gone now, and we don't have any intention of bringing that back. As the Chancellor of the Exchequer, I want to be a champion of a successful and thriving financial service in the UK. But if we have another financial crisis, Rachel, who are we going to be blaming then? However, as recently as October 23, she wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter, questioning why the cap was being removed, contrasting the move with the challenging facing ordinary. See, here we go. Look, a U-turn from Labour. Labour leader Keir Starmer also criticised the policy and said it amounted to pay rises for bankers, pay cuts for district nurses against a backdrop of industrial action in the health sector. Exactly. Momentum, a left-wing campaign group, described Mr Reed's most recent remarks as totally out of touch with Labour's values and public opinions. Yes, I 100% agree. It said that Sir Keir and Rachel Reeves seem determined to repeat failures seen around the financial crisis. Many see the cap as a means to hold down overall pay for city bankers. However, over the last decade, UK banks have compensated for lower bonuses by increasing bankers' basic salaries to ensure that they can still compete in attracting top talent and other top financial centres like New York and Singapore. Critics of the cap say at least bonuses can be deflated or clawed back depending on performance, while basic salaries cannot. They don't need these bonuses anyway. That's the thing that really pees me off. Skeptics, including the Bank of England's governor, who previously told the BBC that allowing uncapped bonuses was preferable because it didn't lead to upward creep of permanent pay in the sector. Labour has been on the charm offensive with businesses and finances for some time, and this latest announcement comes ahead of a major conference with business leaders in London hosted by Labour on Thursday. Ms Reeves outlined in a raft of Labour policies towards the financial sector, including forging closer ties with the EU, expanding financial centres outside of London and Edinburgh, streamlining regulation, boosting pension investment in UK companies and greener technology, exploring long-term fixed-rate mortgages. Many of Labour's ideas are scrap burdensome regulation and remarkably similar to recent government initiatives to keep up with the new emerging technologies and other global financial centres. But in an election year, this announcement is a deliberate shift to demonstrate Labour has changed from the 2019 when Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell supported the nationalisation of some industries and described city bankers as overpaid spectators. Yeah, I actually am in agreement with Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell there, believe it or not. Neil Selleck, Chief Executive of the financial service body, the City UK, said Labour has set out a forward-thinking plan for financial service with a clear focus of innovation, modernising the regulatory landscape, driving more investment and unlocking growth in the wider economy. Oh God, I hate hearing that about unlocking growth. However, there are some in the industry who are uncomfortable with the direction Labour is taking. Nick McCallister, co-director of the Financial Institutions Centre and a former board member of the Financial Conduct Authority, suggested that the party was going too far. He seems to have forgotten the mistakes of the previous Labour administration, which allowed finances to become too dominant, leaving the UK in one of the most exposed global economics in the 2008 crisis came. Ordinary people said UK public services are still paying the price for that failure, he said. The City finance lobby is very vocal at promoting the benefits of the sector. The City doesn't need another champion in Labour, he said. The Conservative government has attacked Labour's financial credibility with the public finances and its pledge to bring down the government's borrowing as a percentage of national income over the next Parliament. Prime Minister Sunak has singled out Labour's 2021 pledge to invest £28 billion a year in green technology, being what's achievable with higher taxes and borrowing. Yeah, we've heard all that nonsense. Blah blah blah. But don't agree with Labour. Don't agree with Rachel Reeves on this. I think it's a stupid decision, and I think they're putting our finances at risk. They're putting it at risk, allowing them to get away with these massive bonuses. worried about investors going away and all this kind of thing. Nonsense. Like, they shouldn't be scared. They should not be scared. They really shouldn't. And it's just infuriating to me. It really, really is. Right, this is a topic that's been going on for a bit of a while, and I haven't addressed it in any way, shape, or form, but this is the first time I'm going to be talking about. I've never done on my channel talked about the DUP in Northern Ireland, but here we go. So the DUP has agreed post-Brexit deal to return power sharing to Northern Ireland. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson said the party executive have voted decisively to back the measures which address the post-Brexit trade arrangements. So, I know some people have been waiting for me to talk about Northern Ireland and what's been happening over there with this. So, I think the DUP are the dumbest union party that has ever lived on God's green earth, if I'm honest. And I think I agree with many other YouTubers that there's someone here who's being played a fiddle, and something tells me that Sir Geoffrey Donaldson could be the one being played here, and he doesn't realise it. Why now is a question. I think is another thing I'm asking myself. Why is this happening now in the run up to election? And what have Rishi Sunak promised behind closed doors? Because I do think there may be something being promised behind closed doors. Because the thing is that they can't change the Windsor framework. The Windsor framework is going to happen. It's going to come into place. And I just feel that there is something so much more here that we are not seeing with this whole thing. And I'm just glad that I'm hopeful that they will actually go into Stormont and actually finally have a government so that they can finally start getting things done in Northern Ireland, because the people there have waited far too long for a government there. It's been ridiculous. This stance that DUP have been on has been nothing short of an effing joke, and whatever these concessions are, I just don't think they're going to be. I just think they're being played, just like they got played before with Brexit. They lost a lot of credibility in Northern Ireland, I feel. But let me read more into it as we go along. So the DUP has backed the UK government deal, meaning it will no longer automatically have to follow EU laws under a post-Brexit deal, which paves the way for power sharing in Northern Ireland to resume. They have been without a devolved government for almost 2 years after the DUP walked out in protest over the trade rules, which it said created barriers for the rest of the UK and undermined Belfast's place within it. Its leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, said he would drop the blockage on devolution at Stormont once the government implemented the measures which will remove checks for goods moving within the UK and remaining in Northern Ireland. He said the new deal will remove checks from moving goods within the UK and remain in Northern Ireland, and will end Northern Ireland automatically following future EU laws. There will be legislation to provide a new legal and practical protection for the Acts of the Union, which guarantees unfettered access for Northern Ireland businesses to the rest of the United Kingdom. I still think something is amiss here. In the coming days, in addition to the publication of the detail of the new package of proposals, the UK government will be required to deliver on the legislative commitments that they have made to us. He told reporters in a post-1 press conference in Codown that he had secured the decisive backing of a 130-strong party executive during a marathon meeting on Monday night. I am pleased to report that the party executives now endorse the proposals that I have put to them, he said. He said the package would, which he said would be published by the government in due course, safeguards Northern Ireland's place in the Union and restores its place within the UK internal market. There will be legislation to provide new legal and practical protections for the Acts of the Union, which guarantees unfettered access for Northern Ireland businesses to the rest of the United Kingdom. In the coming days, in addition to the publication of the details of the new package of proposals, the UK government will be required to deliver on the legislative commitments they have made to us. I'm sceptical. The support for this deal is not unanimous within the DUP, and several senior figures remain fiercely opposed to the proposed agreement to restore power sharing. Of course they would. The Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Herring-Harris welcomed the step and made clear the government would deliver on its end of the deal. He said, I now believe that all the conditions are in place for the Assembly to return, and the party is entitled to form an executive meeting tomorrow to discuss these matters, and I hope to finalise the deal with the political parties as soon as possible. Around 50 protesters assembled outside the executive meeting, carrying posters and banners warning against a DUP sellout. The party has been using a veto power to block Stormont's devolved institutions for 2 years in protest at the post-Brexit trading agreements that create trade barriers between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. See, all this happened because of Brexit over in Northern Ireland. None of this had to happen. This 2 years sitting on the sidelines by the DUP. This all stemmed back to Brexit. What has happened in Northern Ireland in the last several years over this? It has been involved in proactive talks with the government aimed at securing concessions on an arrangement that would address its concerns around trade and sovereignty. I'm sorry, its concerns around sovereignty. A unionist is going to have to explain that to me. Sinn Féin will be in line to take the First Minister's job in any restored ministerial executive in Belfast. The party president, Mary Lou MacDonald, said she was optimistic Stormont could return before the next legislative deadline for forming an administration on the 8th of February. Sinn Féin will now engage with the parties on both governments to ensure that we are now pressed on without delay, she said. So what do I make of this? I think this is nowhere near done. Like it all says it's going to be done and the government's going to be formed and it's going to be all hunky-dory. No, I think there's something else going amiss here. While I'm not too much into Northern Ireland politics, because I have not really talked too much about it, what I do say is that I am glad, like I said at the start of the video, I'm glad that something has come, that there has finally been some progress. And that I generally mean this. I do hope that they do form the Stormont and they are back in government, and that Northern Ireland can finally address the issues that it has in its country. I really hope so. But I do think there is so much more to this. But I'm sure you guys have far better knowledge of this than me. But in my honest opinion, I just think the DUP are being played here in some way, shape or form. I don't trust the Conservative Party in any way, shape or form. I think this is, I think I'm alleging here obviously, but I think this is just an elaborate plot to make them look like that they're getting things done, this government. Like to say, look, we restored the Stormont. This is something Labour would have done. That kind of, I feel like that had it not been election year, I think maybe this would not be happening as well. But like I said, I am speculating on that. So guys, it's going to be a long news round today because we've still got 3 more articles to go. So guys, I'm going to play a nice little parody video, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this little funny one here from Nerdine Skinner Comedy. It's Boris Johnson's Bootcamp. Enjoy.
Hello, it's me, Boris Johnson, and I'm here to say to you to sign up to the army. That's right, we're looking for females, males, babies, grandmothers, cousins twice removed, however old you are, it's time to do it. And when the time is right, I am going to sign up. And that's a promise that I make to you, because when have I ever lied to you? And what I'm going to say to you is you need to get fit, so that when the time is right, you are ready. So go to your local park and do a boot camp. And that's what I'm going to do with you right now. This could be you. Stalking your enemy. Parkour. Whoa. Man your ship. Parkour. Camouflage. Oh bloody hell! I'm caught in the trap. Oh god. Parkour. Get to the chopper! Whoa, parkour! Now you're ready to sign up, and I know for a fact that I'm ready when that phone rings. Oh my gosh, the phone's ringing. Oh, it's the chicken man. Oh gosh, hello, Colonel Sanders. Oh, sign up now? Oh no, you're cracking up. Oh, I'm losing reception, I'm losing you. Oh, bye. Oh no, oh, ruddy hell. Oh, run.
hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh dear, guys. What is wrong with that person? She's absolutely fantastic. Make sure you subscribe to her channel. Go and watch the video on her channel and give it a like and all that stuff, guys. Right, so this one is from The Independent. Let's keep on going. So Rishi Sunak is facing fading election hopes hit by a triple whammy. The IMF rules out tax cuts. Minister Kemi Bakanock caught in evil plotters row, while Tory rights claim millions rising population makes a mockery of Brexit. Yeah, it's not looking good. So for those who don't know, the International Monetary Fund, that is the IMF, saying that you should not be doing tax cuts because you really should be putting that money in towards public services right now. And the IMF are one of the most smartest people on the planet, but I can just see them. The IMF guys, they've gone woke. I can just see people saying that right now. I can read their minds thinking that the IMF has gone woke, yeah, with their thoughts on that. Kemi Bakanock called in evil plotters, and Tory rights claiming 6 million rising population makes mockery Brexit. I mean, like, guys, it's just problem after problems after problem are piling up for Rishi Sunak, and he's not addressing the issues that are going on within the country, which is why all these any prospect of him turning his election around is not very good, and especially after PMQs, like, he was absolutely atrocious in Prime Minister's questions as well. Let's read what they have to say on this, guys. So, Rishi Sunak's Bagree premiership has suffered 3 devastating new blows, which threaten to kill off any lingering hopes the Conservatives can avoid in a general election defeat. Now, guys, let me make this very, very clear. Just because this article is stating that it's going to be a complete wipeout or whatever it might be, we know, from history, you should not assume that this is over, that Labour are going to win a landslide. Things can change. There's still lots of things that can happen between now and the general election. So do not assume. The Prime Minister's plans for a pre-election tax cut to woo back voters were thrown into question after the International Monetary Fund said the UK government could not afford them. Mr Sunak's troubles were compounded when Business Secretary Kemi Bakanock denied that she was plotting to succeed him, blew up in her face. Yeah, well, she's gonna be pushing that after he's gone. It emerged that she is a member of the Tory WhatsApp group called the Evil Plotters. Did they put that as their name? Evil Plotters as well. Along with her political mentor and fellow Cabinet Minister Michael Gove, known for his mischieving and scheming. And in a deeply embarrassing development for Mr Sunak's Brexiteers' credentials, it emerged that the UK population is set to rise by another 6.6 million by 2036. Yeah, really need to get on with those houses. How's that going, Prime Minister? How's the house building going, Prime Minister? Oh, right, we still haven't got on it. The Tory leaders faced fresh calls from right-wingers to bring in a cap on overall numbers, as Office for National Statistics showing that the population could hit nearly 74 million by 2036. The increase is starkly at odds with promise to make during the 2016 EU referendum that Brexit would keep immigration down. According to new projections, 9% of the increase can be attributed to net migration. Suella Braverman, the sacked Home Secretary, seen as a potential challenger to Mr Sunak, argued that the record numbers were placing pressures on schools, NHS and housing. The right-wing rebel dismissed Rishi Sunak's recent tightening of visa rules as too late. There's no question that, I'm not going to lie to you guys, yes, of course they are having an impact on the NHS schools and places immigration. I do think that is having an effect. But the way they are being funded and managed, the funding for them has not been enough. And we're not building enough schools, we're not building enough hospitals, we're not building enough healthcare and investment. All these things, cost of living crisis, there's not been enough being done by the Conservative government to get a grip of this. So they just, instead of dealing with the situation, they just blame everybody else. It came as it emerged. Kemi Bakanock and Mr Gove are members of a Tory WhatsApp group called the Evil Plotters. The Business Secretary is not believed to be pushing to replace Mr Sunak, but she is reporting to regularly holding lunches with key backers, including Housing Minister Lee Rowley and Digital Minister Julia Lopez. A spokesperson for Ms Bakanock did not deny the WhatsApp claim, but she said this is exactly the sort of stirring Kemi was referring to when she told people to stop messing around on Sunday. She had also been reporting that Dougie Smith, a senior Tory strategist who had worked as advisor to successive prime ministers, is aiding the group of rebel MPs and ex-advisors around Lord Frost who are actively plotting to oust Mr Sunak. Mr Sunak's hopes of calming an anxious Tory MP with tax cuts at the March budget were dealt a blow when the IMF warned that tax cuts would be very challenging to achieve considering Britain's growing debt and ageing population. The Chancellor Jeremy Hunt dismissed the international body's advice, arguing that smart tax reductions on March the 6th would help Britain's grow an economy. Yeah, because Jeremy Hunt obviously knows better, because he did a great effing job, didn't he, when he was Health Secretary, wasn't he? You guys remember him as the Health Secretary? He did a great job there, didn't he? Because he obviously knows better than the IMF, doesn't he? If you can't tell I'm being sarcastic, I was. The triple whammy deal is a huge blow to Mr Sunak's current objectives as he fights to avoid the risk of a landslide election defeat sometime this year. He and his number 10 party have been pinning their hopes on silencing the talk of a Tory leadership challenge by cutting income tax alongside curbing immigration and stopping the boats with his Rwanda plan. He told ITV this morning that Tuesday he's absolutely confident about the 2024 general election campaign despite being 20 points behind Sir Keir Starmer's Labour in the polls. Elsewhere, a new Tory rift opened up over the Israel-Hamas war after Foreign Secretary David Cameron suggested Britain could bring forward a formal reconciliation of a Palestinian state. Ho, ho, ho! By the way, number 10 were not aware of this, by the way. The key Sunak ally suggested that Britain and other families could formally recognise a Palestinian state during peace negotiations rather than wait for a final peace deal with Israel. Number 10 insisted that there had been no change in UK policy, but it sparked a backlash among hardliners, with ex-Tory Cabinet Minister Theresa Villas warning that it would only reward Hamas atrocities after the October 7th terrorist attack. Excuse me. But senior Tory MP Alistair Keynes, head of the Foreign Affairs Committee, welcomed Lord Cameron's remarks as a fundamental change in the UK position. And leading Conservative Bob Seeley, a member of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, told The Independent that he welcomed Lord Cameron's constructive idea. Mr Sunak is facing the proposal for fresh troubles over Brexit despite the DUP's decision to back a new agreement with number 10 on trade checks and restore power sharing in Northern Ireland. So Jeffrey Donaldson tried to sell the deal to his bargain. The deal we've already discussed all that kind of stuff as well. Downstreet insists the agreement would not need Mr Sunak to reopen his Windsor framework deal with the EU. Okay. And this is obviously more on the DUP, which we've already discussed. So yeah, lots of problems, guys, as we can see in this, guys. Yeah, it's not looking good with all these things. So I think I'll talk just mainly on the story on the IMF. Obviously, if the IMF are saying something, you're supposed to take it seriously and not just outright ignore it, which is what looks like the Chancellor is doing. And we know the Chancellor doesn't really know what he's doing, really. Oh, except maybe enriching himself and his friends and family, really. I think that's kind of one thing we can agree on, that is one thing they are trying to do. My voice is going, so I'm going to be drinking a lot of water, guys, so I'm just warning you now. I've done a lot of recording today. But this, all these problems are piling up, and once again, the Prime Minister's, he's just dithering, going along, saying everything is working, everything is perfect, and he has absolutely no idea what it's like for us, considering the wealth that he has, because when he's long gone after number 10, it's not going to matter to him. He really does not care about us. He's just putting on a face in all of this, guys. I mean, he literally laughed about a man's story in PMQs as well. It just shows how out of touch he is, guys. 2 more articles left, guys. While you're here, if you can, hit the like button, share across social media, and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video. This one we got here is from Open Democracy with the headline that UK Housing Minister makes misleading claim about an increase in social homes. Lee Rowley said Tories had built 700,000 social homes but made no reference to plummeting stocks of social rent homes. I missed a very important point there. What a shame. It's almost like he intentionally forgot to point that out. Yeah, they've built 70,000 social homes, but yeah, Has that really made a massive difference? No. Have they built houses? Yes, but is it making a dent on the situation that we're in? No, it's not. So yeah. Ah dear, more problems, guys. I know. the UK Housing Minister, has been called out for boasting about a significant increase in social housing under the Conservative government, when in reality the supply of social rented homes has plummeted. In an interview with BBC Radio 4 Today programme about social housing tenants facing sanctions for antisocial behaviour, Lee Rowley rejected claims that the Tories have not built enough social housing since 2010. Britain's housing minister said, "We've built nearly 700,000 social homes, including 170,000 for social rent. So there's been a significant increase in social housing over the last 14 years. Just as there's been a significant increase in housing overall." So why are we struggling to find homes for people still? The government's own regulator of social housing shows that this has been a decrease of 225,102 genuine social rented homes since 2012, though it is offset by the addition of 361,560 so-called affordable rent homes. They are let for up to 80% of the market rates and remain out of reach for many of more of the 1.2 million people on housing waiting lists. Poverty campaigners, the Chartered Institute of Housing, and even the Conservative MPs have criticised the government's use of affordable home figures to massage the desired state of social rented stock. So even their own MPs, guys. Rowley's figure of 700,000 appears to reference the broadest possible category of affordable houses, which includes homes for private sale, such as shared ownership properties, as well as so-called affordable rent. Rowley was not challenged over the figures. The Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities later stated the minister had included affordable rent housing in his answer because legally the government have designated it as a social housing, the category which was introduced under David Cameron, but did not explain why he had also included hundreds of thousands of properties for private sale, to make it sound like they've done lots of work when they haven't. Spokesperson for the Social Housing Action Campaign, the SHAC, said Rowling was lying about the Tories' record. Lying again? Surely not. The minister was quoting statistics to the equivalent of a company reporting its income without its expenditure. If it only tells you half the story, they said. The reality is that even the housing ombudsman is saying the social housing model has failed, it is broken, but the minister and the rest of his government don't want to hear it. Instead, they'd rather stick their fingers in their ears and just keep saying everything is getting better. The housing crisis is back on the news agenda because of the government's reforms, which include introducing UK and local connection tests to determine eligibility. This will force people into demonstrating a connection to the UK for at least 10 years and their local area for at least 2 years. People could also be frozen out from applying if they earn too much or have unspent convictions or antisocial behaviour orders. An SHAC spokesperson said, clearly, gearing it to exclude immigrants is a truly appalling situation. It is another attempt to divide tenants and residents and pit one group against another in the hopes that people don't notice the failures of the housing policy over the last decade. SHAC condemns any racism, even when it is objectively referenced. Housing should be allocated on the basis of needs alone, and we should have enough. We need massive investment in council housing to start addressing these shortages. There are around 3.8 million households in social rented homes in England and a further 370,000 in affordable rented homes, while 1.2 million people are on its waiting list. People can wait decades of being offered at home. An Open Democracy revealed that in 2022, 2,300 people had died in a single year while on the waiting list. The dire lack of housing, particularly social rented homes, has now sparked a homelessness crisis that councils warn that could spell the end of local government. Local authorities spent $1.74 billion between April 2022 and March 2023 to house people in private sector temporary accommodation, which includes hotels, B&B, shelters and hostels, because they have nowhere else to place people. That figure is set to rise to $2.1 billion for 2023-2024. Are you seeing the housing problem now? As of November, 104,000 households, including 139,000 children, were in temporary accommodation, up from 50,400 in 2010. What's more, landlords are starting to take their homes out of private rented sectors and instead rent them out for temporary accommodation. Singh Berry, a Green Party London Assembly member who sits at London's Housing Committee and is a party candidate to run in the Brighton Pavilion, whose sole Green MP Caroline Lucas steps down, says no one is buying the spin from Rowley. from people unable to move out of their parents' home to older people locked into terrible housing. Denying the dramatic and continuous loss of social housing is like denying gravity, she said. Across London and the whole country, the number of homes for social rent has plummeted by thousands. Right to buy, state demolition schemes, and repeatedly missing targets have also led to huge overall loss in social homes. If the government wants to improve access to social housing, it should not be proposing any kind of discrimination by funding councils to buy and build a significant new supply of council homes. I know, it's shit. London's Deputy Mayor of Housing, Tom Copley, has warned that any progress in housing supply is now under threat. Speaking at City Hall meeting in December, he said, "We have a perfect storm of Brexit, labour shortages, the pandemic, the building safety crisis, austerity, housing outplanned in department, material cost of inflation, rising interest rates, the war in Ukraine, contractor insolvency, and regularly uncertainty over mandatory second staircase being the latest examples of this." That was a lot there. The issue with the second staircase stems from the building safety crisis that has followed the Grenfell Tower disaster. In December 2022, the government consulted on introducing mandatory second staircases in tower blocks of 30 metres. 7 months on, Housing Secretary Michael Gove gave a speech in which he confirmed the threshold would be brought down to 18 metres. Though full details are yet to be published, this has huge implications for planned developments, with second staircases reducing the amount of housing a scheme can deliver. The second staircase should be something there. Developers simply cannot come forward with planning permission while they wait for details, Copley said. They added there are at least 34,000 homes in London planning system and are now in limbo as a result. What's more, because of the well-documented issues with existing housing stock, housing associations are halting buildings because they need to spend big money on repairs and upgrades. Fiona Fletcher-Smith, chair of the London's G15 group of housing associations, told the same City Hall meeting in December, "What you are seeing, particularly from larger housing associations in London, the G15, is a refocus. That refocuses on existing homes, our existing residents investing in their homes. The G15 will spend £1.5 billion per year on the next 10 years on existing homes and getting them up to decent standards." Fletcher-Smith added that labour shortages were also having an impact. "Up until 6 months ago, we had one roofing company covering 80,000 homes," she said. "I was delighted to see that the Home Office add roofers to the list of occupations allowed into the country because we frankly could not find them for love nor money. I would dread every morning if I opened the inbox if it had been raining the previous night because there were serious problems." Lack of builders. We don't have enough lack of builders and people to help build these homes as well. This is another problem. That in tune is part of Brexit as well, for those who don't know. The Department for Levelling Up Housing Community spokesperson said affordable rented homes like social rent homes are legally part of the social housing. Last year we saw the highest year on record for affordable housing delivery, with a 12% increase that starts in the previous year since 2010. And we've delivered over 696,100 new affordable homes, including 172,600 homes for social rent. Our commitment to building more homes and boosting social housing supply remains that we are on track to meet our manifesto commitment to build 1 million homes over this parliament, backed by investment of 10 billion in housing supply. The spokesperson did not address the loss of social rental homes since 2010. Oh, that's a lot, guys. What are my faults? I mean, yeah. It's just these numbers, obviously, as we read in there, guys, emphasises the issues that we have with the housing crisis. I don't need to tell you, you've seen enough reports out there about the crisis we have with homes. Not just the fact that we don't have enough homes for our own, but there's also obviously the influx of migration that is coming in as well, which is also not helping the issue when it comes to that as well. And people have died as a result of not being able to get the accommodation that they need, which has been another big issue, guys. Labour got a long way off to building the amount of homes that's needed, guys. Just before I go to the last article, guys, just so you know, if you guys want to financially support me in the work that I do here, which I would greatly appreciate, you can do so by doing a super chat, a super thanks, which is one of those down below, or you can financially support me, guys, by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p a month. And also you can join me on Rumble or Patreon, guys, one of those two, either links down below, for exclusive content on there, so you don't just have to see content here. There's even more content on Rumble and Patreon if you guys want to check them out. The links are in the description down below. Excuse me. So this last one, guys, is from Byline Times. More stuff about the crisis in British journalism, pretty much. So the headline is Time for Truth. Calls grow for police probe into Piers Morgan and Mirror editors. So a prominent lawyer, hacking victim and ex-police officer are joining Prince Harry in demanding police action into Mirror Group's claims and alleged ties to the Leveson inquiry. The Leveson inquiry, as we guys know, was one of the biggest, was supposed to be the change and the landscape for the British media, but in the end we didn't do it. Now this man, Piers Morgan, as he is quite a nasty person. Well, at least he comes across, to me. There are times where he does speak for the British people, and there are times where he's just absolutely off the wall. Obviously I don't know how much he knew about the phone hacking. People will say that he did. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that he did. But obviously he was editor at the time, so it does make it hard for him not to know about it. That is for sure. But they are calling for a probe into him. And normally when Byline Times are saying something, guys, 9 times out of 10, it's probably true. So Scotland Yard is facing growing calls to reinvestigate Piers Morgan and a generation of former Mirror Group newspapers editors for systematic newsroom criminality and years of cover-up, Byline Times can reveal. As claimants saw a bid to overturn a bar time on hundreds of potential civil suits against the publisher adjourned yesterday, victims, lawyers and former detectives joined Prince Harry's demand for the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to do its duty. It follows a significant High Court victory for the Duke of Sussex last month, in which Mr. Justice found industrial-scale unlawful information gathering (UIG) went on at the MGN's 3 national newspapers between 1996 and 2011. Almost extensive finding of wrongdoing, the judge said that MGN's executives not only knew about the illegal activity but could and should have stopped it, but instead of doing so turned a blind eye to what was going on and positively concealed it. Now media lawyer Jonathan Coate, actress Denise Walsh and former Crime Watch presenter, journalist and police officer Jackie Hams are calling on the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley to reopen the Operation Golding, the phone hacking investigation that saw Morgan interviewed in February 2014. Despite uncovering significant evidence and putting substantial public resources into Golding, the former Director of Public Prosecution, Alison Saunders, decided in 2015 that there was insufficient prospect of winning a conviction in any of 10 potential cases against the MGN's employees. However, Jonathan Colt believes that the ruling of the case of the Duke of Sussex and others via MGN Limited offers a compelling case for the investigation of the Mirror Group over findings that lawyers and some board members hid endemic criminality, misleading shareholders and stock markets, a public inquiry and the High Court itself. How can we really open this? Can we open this can of worms? And can we really, if a Labour government were in charge of under this, do we really think that they would bring this down? I think about Keir Starmer here. The term that he's a former Director of Public Prosecution. A part of me feels like that if this opens up under a Labour government, I do think Keir Starmer would back it. I do think he will. And perhaps maybe he will push for the Leveson's things to come in and these checks and reforms to come on media. I generally have a little bit of optimism for it. I have a bit of optimism. I understand people don't have much optimism for Labour, but I'm a little bit optimistic because it would be a massive change and the perceptions of the British public would be different because they wouldn't be basing opinions on so much lies from the mainstream media. I think it's a huge significant, I really do. If it was to come through, the rest of this Leveson, if it was to be implemented, the change would be significant. Prince Harry's seismic win over the Mirror Group newspaper has summoned the chickens' homes to roost, he told Byline Times. Despite the publisher's expenditures of millions in legal fees to cover it up, the judge found that such a phenomenon of law-breaking at Piers Morgan's Mirror, for that any public confidence to survive the criminal justice system as applies to the behemoths of Fleet Street, there must now be full investigation into the Metropolitan Police. The denials of knowledge in the newsroom crimes offered under oath by successions of former Mirror bosses into the 2011-2012 Leveson inquiry into the press misconduct, also to be probed, according to Mr. Coates. The 2005 Inquiry Act made it specific offence to knowingly give wrong or disstrong evidence to the public inquiry, and Prince Harry's lawyers were able to prove that MGN continued to hack phones for stories, the industry practice that sparked the inquiry even after Lord Justice Leveson was conducted the televised questioning of witnesses. Justice Fancourt finding exposed an entire generation of editors, lawyers and some board members conspiring together to form an organised crime which goes far beyond the mere tabloid espionage at the heart of Harry's case, Mr. Coates added. Now arises issues as the impact of the Mirror shareholders, the lies the companies told the public and authorities, as well as lies individuals appear to have told the Leveson inquiry under oath. Following the 386-page ruling on the 15th December, Scotland Yard said it was carefully considering its content before taking decisions on further action. Outside the court, Prince Harry's lawyers read a statement in which he urged UK authorities to do their duty for the British public and investigate bringing charges against the company and those who have broken the law. Scotland Yard have told Byline Times this week that its position has not changed and that the judgment remains under review. Jackie Helms is calling on her former employees to heed lessons of 2006 when it failed to properly investigate Rupert Murdoch's News of the World following the hacking of royal household phones by private investigators Glenn McCain and former royal editor Clive Goodman. It was clear that opportunities to properly investigate crimes at the News of the World in 2006 were lost, creating a perception that the newspaper group used its influence on the Met to cover up sheer scales of offending, she said. In 2015, the Met wrote off large amounts of public money by aborting Operation Golding after pressure from the press, calling it a witch hunt, portraying themselves as victims. Perhaps if it had continued the successful legal action brought by Prince Harry and others in 2023 using the wealth of evidence that the Met had gathered would have been unnecessary. On reflection, it's very hard not to join the dots between the newspaper industry and the political influence in the Met decisions. The public interest must not once again be sacrificed by self-interest. We cannot let this pass unchallenged. The voicemails of Denise Welsh were hacked in her hotel room, were illegally bugged by MGN in 2002 and 2003. And at the order of the Sunday Mirror editors Tina Waver and Mark Thomas, both Morgan's protégés who have never faced charges despite clear admissions of wrongdoing and the payment of damages to victims on their behalf by the former employers. Let it come back. Whiten likened the lack of official action to the Post Office Horizon scandal or the inevitable of Jimmy Savile. She said so many lives were devastated by the top decision makers at the Mirror Group, yet none have faced justice despite massive evidence coming out of the Prince Harry case and hundreds of others. It went far beyond the phone hacking, which in all Piers Morgan denies. My hotel room was bugged by people working directly for Mirror editors. I was then entrapped into talking about things that were my private business, which was incredibly cruel. Like many, I lived for years without trusting a soul. The impact was huge for my family, and I believed for a long time that an actor friend had sold the story on me. Friendship was wrecked. At the time, my young son was seriously ill in Adelaide Hospital and needed life-saving surgery. The thought of that people were listening to my life during this distressing time and continued to do so for years sickened me. But the people at the top of these papers who benefit most have been allowed to escape when they should face justice. I do not know why they're able to get away with it. We've seen what happens with Jimmy Savile or the Post Office scandal when a blind eye turns to wrongdoing. The police should certainly be investigating. The calls for action come as MGN's former top lawyers, Marcus President, faces a separate investigation by the Solicitors Regulation Authority over its involvement in cover-ups at the company. The SRA announcement comes 4 years after this newspaper's sister site, Byline, investigates first asked the regulator whether it was looking into professional conduct. I love Byline Times. They just have all this information, guys, that you just don't read in the main papers. This also comes as speculation mounts over Gavin Jones, editor of the Daily and Sunday Express. Oh, that was up good. Newspaper was the same owners as MGM, Reach plc. Sources at Reach have told Byline Times to expect a decision on his future with the firm in due course. When asked, the company declined to comment. I wonder why. In December, Justice Fancourt found that Jones was one among a strings of Morgan-connected editors and senior staff heavily involved in the commission of illegally spying on the which MGN's three national newspapers, the Daily Mirror, the Sunday Mirror and the Sunday People, spent millions of pounds between 1995 and 2011. Jones was singled out in particular. He obtained private bank accounts details for, among others, the Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, former New Labour Downing Street Director of Communications Alistair Campbell, former New Labour Minister Peter Mandelson, and members of the Bank of England Credit Committee. The judge ruled that other key MGM figures, some of whom now hold senior roles at the organisation, were aware or likely aware of illegal activity, including Richard Wallace, now Piers Morgan's boss at Murdoch-owned TV Talk, and Neil Wallace, former editor of The People, who in 2015 was acquitted of phone hacking charges relating to his time as deputy editor of News of the World. You're seeing this spider of webs forming as the more you read into this, guys, and the more it comes. That it's like everyone was in on it, but everyone, one or two were made as scapegoats, and the rest were allowed to continue on. At least that's how it portrays to me when reading this, guys. Others including Morgan's Mirror deputy editor Tina Weaver, for whom he advocated in 2001 to become Sunday's Mirror editor, Morgan's former features editor Mark Thomas, and Sunday's Mirror and People's senior editors Nick Barley and James Scott. The journalist who handed Morgan one of the biggest Mirror scoops, hacked straight from the voicemails of former England football manager Sven-Goran Eriksson and television protector Ulrika Jonsson. Justice Fancourt said that while most of the directions of the Trinity Mirror plc, the former name for MGN, did not know about the illegal activities, two did. Paul Vickers, the group's legal director, certainly knew about the phone hacking from the end of 2003, while the ex-Mirror chief executive Cy Bailey knew of hacking. The board executives knew about the illegal activity that was going at their newspapers and could or should have put a stop to it, the judge said. Instead, they turned a blind eye to what was going on and positively concealed it. MGN abandoned a long-held policy of paying off claimants before they got into court in order to allow Prince Harry's trial to proceed last May and June. The company, having vacated several trial dates, was keen to test the law of limitations in the hope of time-barring potentially hundreds, if not more than thousands, future claims from proceeding under a 6-year time rule. Despite the damage suffering from the trial, it emerged yesterday that MGN is facing a cost bill from the other side of £2 million. The company still considers it a victory because it was able to include two of the weakest claims on the issue of limitation, among many in the wings, around which to argue its points, and the cases of Fiona Reitman, a former wife of comedian Paul Whitehouse, the actress of Nikki Sanderson. It won, even though the judge found that it had indeed been victims of illegal behaviour. But yesterday that victory was called into doubt as a bid was launched to appeal against the judge's view that the pair ought to have known sooner that had cases to bring despite a concealment and a loss of criminality by MGN. I'm going to leave it there, guys, because my voice is starting to go as much as I want to continue reading this, guys. I'm going to leave the link, obviously, for the article will be in the description down below, guys. It's just my voice is really starting to go, unfortunately, because this has been a very long news round. So what are my final thoughts? My final thoughts are, I hope that the Leveson inquiry does come back, and that this comes back to light, and the Byline Times continues to push the emphasis on this. It's really, really important for truth to come through. If Britain is to restore its democracy, its people's rights, its freedoms, I think media reform is one of the biggest barriers to that. Yes, of course, changes need to be made in the Houses of Parliament. There's no question about that. Government reform needs to be made. The way that we functions, our electoral reform needs to change to proportional representation. But our media is one of the biggest one of the biggest barriers that we face, guys, because they are consistently trying to manipulate people with spews and powers of misinformation, headlines that paint the wrong kind of pictures of those who intend to cause them harm. And I'm glad that as new generations come along, more and more turning away from mainstream media and looking at other outlets as opposed to finding their best source of information. And this is something that these British tabloids can't control. They can't control the likes of TikTok. They can't control the likes of Facebook, and they can't control the likes of YouTube. and social media, where a lot of people now are turning to where they get their news from. And that is where a lot more truthful information comes from, especially when videos are put in front of them, as opposed to just headlines that make them see something that is different. But that's not to say that people aren't still misinformed and misguided. That is still happening. But we do need to change the way media is introducing itself in this country, and I hope that Byline Times are able to help make that change for the better of all four nations of the United Kingdom. And with that, I've come to the end of Regan's Newsround, guys. It's been a very long one for me. What did you guys think of the 7 stories that we covered today? I covered a lot and gave a lot of my thoughts on some of them. A lot more, I would say, than I usually have, which is not like me. But I hope you guys found it informative, helpful. Let me know what you guys honestly think about some of these stories in the comment section down below, what you thought of them. Before you go and click off, if you can, hit the like button if you haven't already. Share this across social media so other people are aware of this. Yeah, it's a lot of information for people to take in. Some of them are not already aware of some of these stories, so sharing it across social media, other people are aware of it, is really important. If you can, hit the bell notification icon so you'll be notified of every time I upload a video or when I go live, and subscribe because it really does support the channel. And of course, guys, if you want to financially support me, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little 99p, or joining me on Patreon or Rumble for exclusive content there as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've watched this far, take care, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.